Rob. How are you?
I am great. What about you, Stefan?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. We're having a lot of fun today.
Yeah.
So let's jump in. Just tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about Google's business messaging. You could share slides if you like, and then we'll jump more deeply into the topic. I think it's such an exciting topic.
Great. So I'm Rob. I work at Google in a business development role. Specifically, I work on our business communications product. So that means trying to open up communication channels between businesses and consumers to help sort of engagement for users. We think about Google users and try to do things that are relevant to them, but also we're trying to sort of help businesses. And maybe the right thing is, I'm just playing with my settings here. Can you see my okay here?
Yeah, so we could see you well. And so there's this button. Say that again?
Can you see my phone?
No, I could see you. So there's this computer button. If you select it, you could share your screen.
Yeah.
So
it says I'm sharing a tab, but it doesn't seem to be working. Just in a second.
It's interesting because on the maybe try it again.
Yeah, okay. Give me a second. Stop sharing this tab. Apologies, everybody. Not an expert hopping user. So
yeah, it's a new platform that we're doing. There you go.
Now
we see it.
Okay, yes. Great. So this is a live demo. So apologies if things go wrong. So business messages. Think of this as an extension of search. So we're trying to make search into a conversational surface. So if you're a developer, you're a business, think of this as another channel. This is a place for you to deploy chatbots to engage consumers and businesses. So let's show you a couple of things. So I'm going to look for a few businesses. So Dish is I don't know where everybody's from. This is a US sort of cable TV sort of internet provider. So I searched for Dish customer service. And this is, Google search has different elements. We call them sort of visual elements. This is something we call featured snippets. So here I'm looking, I've got a very strong customer care intent. We've thrown up a big 800 number and I can click that. And you'll see that Dish has now put messaging alongside that phone number. So I could tap this and I could go straight in. You can see I've opened a conversational layer on top of the browser and I can start talking to Dish. There's a logo and a welcome message and a little sort of robot icon there that tells me I'm talking with an automated system rather than a live agent. Oops. Somebody sent me a LinkedIn request and it's jumped off. So well, let's do something different. So let's go back and maybe I came to Google because I wanted to call Dish. So I'm going to try and call them. As I call, we open the phone app. So this is the dialer, the phone app on Android. And you can see at the bottom here, I could hit the green button and I could make the call, but we're also sort of saying, hey, you could also chat here. So again, like not coming from the browser, but here coming from the phone dialer, we're allowing businesses to put this business messages entry points to deflect these conversations away. And I'm not going to chat to Dish today, but let's go back to the browser. Let's look at a few other things. And you can do these things. Some of these things are geo-fenced around the US, but many of them are global. So you can, people can play with the phones. This works on an iPhone, it works on Android. You can do this at home. So let's look for Levi's, brand everybody knows. You'll see I've got a few ads at the top of the screen here. This is an element I'm sure you're all familiar with. We call this site links and vertically stacked blue links. And you'll see at the bottom here, there's message with a live agent. So I could go, okay, that's cool. Yeah, I'm going to open up and I'm going to chat to Levi's. But let's not do that. You can see below. I can also go to a store. So here's the San Francisco store, and hopefully you can see there, sort of in the middle of the screen, there's a message button, and I could engage in there. So different types of search where you can now put messaging. Let's look at maps as well. So you can see I was already testing this. So this is, I'm in the Bay Area in California. If I search for Levi's, it's going to show me, again, locations. I can choose one that I want. Doesn't really matter. This works on all the Levi's stores. And you can see again, so now I'm in maps, very similar sort of search result. This we call this the play sheet, and you can see messaging here. So we open up this thing, and again, you can see that I'm talking to a bot. There's a welcome message that sort of sets my expectations. And then we call these chips, these buttons, these sort of quick replies, allow Levi's to lay out functionality, so they can kind of explain the user journeys that can offer. And as a consumer, I can just tap through. And you can see we've got track order. I could be an existing customer. I want to know where my delivery is, or maybe I'm a new customer and I want to find products. So let's just look and see. So it's interesting. It's a surface that, you know, for different brands, different use cases can be very tuned to customer care. Like for Dish, most people contacting Dish are existing customers and they want help with connectivity and TV packages and things. Here it's Levi's and I'm more in a sort of sales mode. So I say, okay, I'd like to buy some jeans. This might be a little slow, but I want to talk you through the flow. So you can see here again, using those chips in the flow to help the users tap through, to drive people into things. I can use natural language as well, and we can play with some of that, but this is easier to demonstrate. I'm going to try and look for some men's jeans. And they've got a whole bunch of things. So you can see here that we call these cards, there's a sort of carousel of cards that you can throw in. So you start to move away from a sort of messaging-based sort of conversation. Looks like you tap something there. Or you can go in and sort of make these things more visual. And I can I can say, okay, I'll keep going with the flow. You can kind of do things like you can say, I want straight jeans. You can put in your waist size, your leg size, and it'll find jeans that are relevant for you. You can jump out of here, like if you want to go and purchase these jeans, it's going to push me across to the websites. We have it works a bit slow today, or I can go back if I want to go and find them in store. It also drives brick and mortar commerce. So they're using this to drive online purchases, but also to drive people into to retail. I think I'm a little bit lost here. Okay. Normally it's asking me for my zip code, and then it sends me to, here we go. I'm going to talk and do a demo at the same time. I'm sure I'm making some mistakes. But it should return nearby stores where I can find those jeans. And if I specified my size, it'll tell me which. Okay, I've broken. Hopefully you get the idea. Like it's a channel that you could use, as a business to drive traffic into a bot type experience. So this is being used by retailers, by telco companies, by brands like Coca-Cola, people that sort of tapping into search to move people into an asynchronous, much more natural user journey than perhaps going to a website or making a phone call.
Yeah, and in our previous discussion, we talked briefly about the top 4 reasons why people use the internet. And one of them is to buy products or to get a service from a company. And it seems like this really helps satisfy that goal. Like if you purchase something from Levi's and you want to know where your jeans are, this is far more efficient than having to go on their website, looking at the contact page, sending them an email, trying to find out what your order number is, and so on. I guess my first question would be, do you see that this is going to revolutionize the search engine result pages, and in a way everyone or users staying on that Google's first page and ask different bots questions right from that page?
I think it has that opportunity. Like I work on the product, and so I'm probably a little bit biased from my personal perspective. Like, I would like it to. I think the right thing is we're trying to give customers what they want. So there's times when, maybe I want to find out, Walmart is live. I want to find out what time Walmart closes tomorrow, or are there any COVID restrictions in this store, or do you have kids' bikes? Now I could call the store up, but that's a pretty painful process. Like I'm listening to a cool seminar, and I don't want to stop listening to the seminar and make a phone call to Walmart, but I could get my phone out and I could message them saying, hey, what time do you close today? Are there senior hours for COVID patients? Like those things I can do asynchronously as I live my life. So, the ability to sort of tap into that, we're all heavy messaging users. Like 5 of the world's several of my popular apps are asynchronous messaging apps, and that's so it's part of our personal communication, but it's hard with a business. I can't message my bank in an asynchronous way. I can't message Walmart, but now you can. So it's like we want to make that available to customers, so that as a consumer searching on Google, I've got that opportunity. I can ask my quick question, or I can go deep and I can buy a pair of jeans. You can support different user journeys. So we think it's an important part of the mix. I think does it define Google? Does it become the dominant channel? To some extent, depends on Dish and Walmart and Levi's. Do they build a compelling experience there? Do they offer you something better that is better than making a phone call, or is better than going to the store, or is better than going to the website? So I think there are certain user journeys that work really well in that asynchronous mode, and others that you're better off in the app or in the website, and that's fine. I think it's right to have those options.
And you mentioned that certain user journeys work better, with the bots. What are some of those user journeys, and what are some of the results look like?
We started this product really tuned around customer care. It was really around call deflection, how do we help? Nobody wants to call their bank or their ISP or their airline. It's a painful process. So how do we move those things into an asynchronous channel where it's persistent and you can come back an hour and ask later? And so we focused on customer care through most of this year. And generally, the results are good. I mean, if you look subjectively, we measure CSAT, customer satisfaction across the channel. We typically see that in the sort of 70-75% range. So customers, finding real sort of perceived value in the channel. We just published a case study with Dish. If you compare messaging versus calling, their handle times go down 28%. Their resolution goes up over 20%. So it's much more efficient from Dish's perspective. So you're kind of pleasing the customers. It's easy for me as a customer. I don't have to pick up the phone. I can do it while I'm making my kids dinner, and I can chat to Dish. So it's nicer for the user, but it's also better for the business. It's saving them money. It's making them more efficient. And by automating, you'll see both of those examples. There's a bot there ahead of any live agent. So the bot contains, I think for Walmart, it's containing over 70% of the conversation is contained in the bot. So only 30% of those conversations then need to be supported by a human. So it's cheaper, it's more efficient for the business as well as for the customer.
Yeah, and even in this sort of use case, customer care, most of these questions are going to be the same questions over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think you look at just simple things like what time does the store close? Is maybe for some retailers it's 25% of the questions. Now they're coming from a search page that probably has the opening times on, but they just want to check in with the business. Is it really closing at 7?
Yeah.
And so you can automate that's not a very sophisticated bot. You just need a feed of opening times and you can answer those things. But that's really it's high utility for the user. Now, as you move into the Levi's example. And you're sort of starting to sell products, clearly on a Walmart scale, you've got to integrate, millions of SKUs that are sold in Walmart and provide that, conversational commerce experience is a heavier lift.
Right. And right now, I see that obviously this is you guys have launched it. Is this still in the beginning stages of, the Google business messaging program, or is it open to everybody? Can any small business or anyone on that first page of Google develop a bot for their?
Yeah, it's pretty much open. We were running the product for about a year in sort of a closed pilot. You had to come and engage with us, and we had to sort of there was a sort of a lift to get involved. We launched it publicly in June. We've got. It depends how you count, but thousands of businesses that are now live, from people like Walmart and Best Buy down to small mom and pop sort of SMBs. We have a publicly available developer site. I posted a link in the chat, so anybody can come. They can register. It's a free product. We don't charge to do this. There are certain quality thresholds, that we monitor. We want good experiences, but it's easy to come and get set up. We have. Code samples and such that help you get there. We've got a developer relations team that can help you get set up. So we're definitely sort of in high growth mode and looking for more developers, more businesses to use.
That's great. And is this? So you mentioned that it's easy to develop. Does it leverage Dialogflow? Is it kind of like a plug and play, or is it almost like a pre-built template of some kind?
Think of it as a channel. So, we've got that surface for the consumer with the chips and the cards and the welcome message and logos. So there's a bunch of standard features there, and we expose those, and we take care of the consumer side. That we built that surface into the mobile devices, iPhone and Android, and then we provide the APIs to developers. And there is sort of code libraries and things that make it easier to sort of get up and running and build those experiences. But it's a channel. We're agnostic of how you build that. Like, you can use Dialogflow, and that's great. And we've got some sort of connections for Dialogflow. But if you want to use Rasa, that's great. If you want to build your own homegrown thing, that's fine. Like, we don't care how the back end is built. Like, some businesses, just use live agents. It just routes through to retail associates in a store or people in a contact center. Most people have some kind of bot or automation ahead of that, but we're agnostic around how you build this.
I see. And you also mentioned that you guys kind of, you give guidance in terms of what to build. Do you have like recommendations based on like what businesses like, let's say Walmart or Target, right, the type of questions that they should address?
Yeah, I think we're trying to not be too prescriptive. Like, I think we celebrate success. So we say, okay, look at this cool thing that Levi's have built, and we share that back to the community and explain why it's good. And we try and produce sort of case studies and data to explain those things. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of fascinating. You build these tools, and then you open up an API, and you see people construct really different user journeys. Different, some people are very formal. Some people have a very sort of joking kind of persona and use the features in a very kind of almost like an entertainment sort of way. So I think it's, we want to be kind of hands off and say, look, we don't know. It's still, from a Google's perspective, we think of this as very early. Like, we've got a pretty aggressive roadmap of features and things that we're building, but also like those brand use cases. Like, it's fascinating to see how people do those things. So we don't want to put too many guardrails in place. But we do have lots of case studies and examples, and we try and sort of educate the community of people using the tool around those things that we see.
I see. And Rob, does this overlap at all with Google Voice?
Good question. The simple answer is no. Like, clearly there are sort of parallels with the assistants and with building sort of conversational experiences against other parts of Google. This is very sort of tuned to asynchronous messaging, so it's visual, it's keyboard entry, it's chips and cards and such, and it's ongoing. Like, you can come back tomorrow and you'll see the conversation history with Walmart. You come back in 3 months, you'll still see the conversation history with Walmart. You can ask the next question. So it's about ongoing relationships. I think, it all uses, because it's Google, we're using the same kind of ID in the background. So there's no reason over time we couldn't stitch it together. Like, you're using business messages to talk to United Airlines, and then you switch into the assistant, and we can connect those dots. But today, for they're both high velocity products. Like, it's we don't tie the two roadmaps together at the moment.
Got it. So one, will open it up to the audience. So if you guys want to ask questions, just ask in the chat. And also, I guess that leads us to what's Google's vision of business messaging, and how does that relate to the broader ecosystem?
I think our vision is we want we believe lots of these interactions with a business are best done asynchronously. Like, I don't want, I want to kind of continue that conversation. Like, so, I want to have that relationship with Walmart. And when I come back, they should understand all the previous things that Walmart knows about me and be able to sort of relate to me in those ways. And there are some user journeys that are very, high value to me as a consumer if they're done in a positive way. So we want to open that channel up. We want to add more intelligence, more features to make those journeys, richer and more valuable. And then it's really down to the Walmarts and the Best Buys and the Vodafones of this world to make that a good part of the platform. Like, over time, does everybody come to Google because they want to search for conversations rather than because they want to search for websites? Like, there are different versions of the future depending on how that plays out. I think for the sort of bot building community, I mean, I would think of it just as another channel. It's a way that you can get high reach into into the experiences you're building. So maybe some people get to the Walmart site and they want to do web chat there, but before that, they're likely to start with Google. Like you're kind of interrupting these user journeys, closer to the start of when the user starts thinking about solving their problem or answering their question. So it's just another entry point that you can use to drive users into the experiences you're building.
I see. And how do you envision this evolving and changing over the next 5 years?
I think again, I would say I think we're pretty early. Like we're moving from customer care into these conversational commerce. We've got some good features for those things. I think there are obvious things, like we're just about to launch OAuth, which sort of opens up secure authentication and sort of banking type user journeys. Early next year we'll introduce payments, and that will start to facilitate sort of end-to-end kind of commerce journeys. And I think there are lots of other things, intelligence, helping with sort of predictions and sort of building sort of smoothness that we can do. There are lots more entry points, like again, things like Google Pay. You go into store and you use your phone to pay, and then you get a sort of thank you message. Like you can use that to go back and re-engage the business. There's lots of Google touch points where we can kind of open up to drive more of these conversations, but also more features we can weigh in. And it's also, the other thing I would say is it's an early product, and it's like a marketplace product. We have to do the right thing for consumers and the right thing for businesses. So the developer community help drive our roadmap. Like if there are features that people want that would be helpful from a business side, then we listen pretty hard to those things as well. And it's, we know we're in that fast sort of high velocity growth mode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very exciting that this could be so deeply integrated, where you go to the store, you buy something, you get a text message, and then the whole, I think two things. One is like, if someone comes to your website and they bounce out, if you're really good, maybe you collect their information 25% of the time, like through an email capture. Maybe they go on to buy 3% of the time. But if they use your bot, you have their phone number essentially. And now you have this opportunity to develop a relationship with them.
Right. And it's asynchronous on both sides. Like I think a lot of businesses deploy it thinking, okay, we'll just have to respond each time the customer engages with us. But the business can reach out as well. Like you buy something from Levi's and that's great. And then a week later, Levi's can send me a message saying, hey, just checking in. How are the jeans? Do they fit okay? Like, do you want to get this t-shirt? It goes well with them. Like the business can, it should be a one-to-one relationship that's happening there. It's like text messaging. It shouldn't just be the business is sitting there waiting to respond, like in a sort of turn-based thing. Like it's like you don't want to get spammed by the business, but there are good reasons for the business to reach out to the consumer as well, which I think again we haven't seen. That's built into the platform, but I think businesses, there's a change in mindset there away from customer care responsiveness into sort of relationship building, one-to-one engagement from a marketing perspective, which I think it'll be fun to see. I think you can start to see some of those things happening, but next year I suspect we'll see a lot more.
Yeah, for me that's one of the most exciting parts, because it changes the paradigm from like a sales funnel to a sales flywheel, where the whole point of the business is just to create really good relationships with its customers and to have deeper insights on them so they can service them in a better way.
Right. And that's, where does AI play a role there? Like what is the right thing to reach out to Rob with based on that history? And like, how do we re-engage and do something that's positive for the business and positive for Rob at that point? Like, I think is again, that's a pretty open book at this point. I think most people are still in that sort of tree-based journeys and sort of responsiveness, which we'll open up pretty quickly out
from there. Yeah. And so I have one more question for you, and then I'll take a couple from the public, and I know you've been answering them. So but one is that I think that this kind of, in a very unique way, opens up new use case opportunities. One of those being like anything that deals with self-diagnosis. So for example, someone, I use the same example as I used earlier so we can keep it consistent. Someone gets a parking ticket. You don't know if you could fight the parking ticket or not. right?
Yep.
You can go to Google, and right now Google's great at like helping you self-diagnose, but whether it's a parking ticket or maybe you get a DUI or you have a bump on your chest,
Yep.
there's infinite inputs, right? And
Right.
knowing like what state you live in or where you parked your car and so on, you can self-medicate. You can figure out what, or you can self-diagnose much more
Right.
easily. And so do you think we're going to see such use cases where, someone types into Google, like, I got a parking ticket or I got a DUI or there's a bump on my chest, and a bot comes up and says, I could help you with that. And then it asks you, 4 or 5 questions. You send a picture of the bump or the parking where you parked your car, et cetera. And then right through the SERP, it says, these are.
I mean, I think that's clearly a possibility, and you start to see. I mean, there are examples of that happening today. Like not in like clearly medical. You get into HIPAA and like sensitivity, and it's not an easy place to start. But
Right.
The duplex bot that helps you book a table at an independent restaurant. Like if the restaurant isn't using a sort of commercial booking platform, you go and search for that on Google. And Google will say, hey, do you want to book a table? Okay, I want a table for 2 tomorrow night at 8 p.m. And you go through a little sort of wizard inside search to say that's what I'm looking for. And then Duplex goes off and makes a voice call to the business with an automated, voice bot, talks to the business, books a table for 8 for Rob, and then comes back into search and says, good news, I booked you a table. Like so there's, Google's definitely providing that sort of conversational interface and that sort of AI to help marry intent with solutions. So yes, I can see that, and I think, business message is kind of separate. Like this is more like it's opening up search to say, well, does Walgreens want to do that? Walgreens could like use the messaging, like, do you want to self-diagnose? Like, should you come in? Should you do different things? Like Walgreens could do that, or Kaiser Permanente could do that. Like it's a channel that we're opening up to them from search results to provide those experiences.
Okay, and a few questions from the audience. Let's trying to find the best one I can. And you answered some of them already, but just in case someone didn't read through, this is available globally.
Yeah, it's globally. It works in Search Anywhere. It localizes to the language of the device. So if you're speaking, I was just testing an Arabic business. Well, I was going to test an Arabic business this morning that went live overnight. And I don't speak Arabic, but it's kind of cool to see the whole interface, the whole menu, everything localizes to the local language. So yes, you can do it anywhere. It works across platforms. There was a question around PII. Like we don't allow PII in the conversation. That's against the sort of the terms, if you like. So you can't share credit card numbers or social security and those things. We don't want that. Mostly because it's a user. There's a just user risk around data. Like it's encrypted in transit and everything. It's secure as a channel, but if somebody steals your phone and they open up the messaging conversation, they see your bank account details. That's not good. But in using, there are things that we're building that will allow you to send secure data to the business outside of the channel. Why not have the bot have integrations? For example, calendar. Exactly. So I think, some of those things are starting to happen. There are other Google products like Calendar, like Google Pay, that are plenty obvious places to integrate with, and probably third-party services as well. Like, today we sort of encourage that for businesses to do it. So you might want to pull in using the Places API, reviews against the place, opening times and such. You can do that on the business side. Over time, I think we'll provide some of those things in the platform, but it's very much open for you to do that as a developer.
Got it. And then last question. And then Larry asks, this seems to apply to mobile only. Is there a way to put it on a website? The chat widgets on websites?
Not today.
Not today.
We're building it mobile first. It's the bigger opportunity, honestly, in terms of search volumes. But also, it's an asynchronous messaging conversational thing, and we think that fits better with mobile than it does with desktop. And we frankly can move faster and really sort of understand and refine that user benefit and the business benefit in mobile at sort of greater speed if we stick to mobile. I think at some point next year you'll see us. It'll evolve back into a desktop solution as well. But
I see.
So it's yeah.
Yeah. Personally, I would love that. I would love like a chat widget that actually sends SMS.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like SMS, but it's I mean you could bump people to SMS, but once you're in SMS, you're in 160 characters. You can't have the cards and the carousels and the payments and stuff. So that we've built that asynchronous sort of surface so that you can have all those benefits. It's over the top, so you don't have to pay for the carriers. Like there's no business cost to that. But you get those richer features that you don't get with SMS.
Great. So, Rob, if people want to follow up with you, what's the best way to do that?
I put my email in the chat here, so you're welcome to ping me. You can find me on LinkedIn, and somewhere up in the top, I can paste it again. I put the dev site for the product. If you want to just come and play around, start building things, register, it's very much open. But we'd love to hear from people. Happy to sort of do deep dives, introduce you to our developer relations team if you've got more technical questions, and do what we can to help.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming. It was a pleasure talking with you. And
thanks for having me. Always fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've loved like the last few years you've come on. We've seen it evolve.
Right. It's yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're still just starting. I think there's so much more ahead of us, but it's fun. Like it's thousands of businesses on a kind of global product. It's like the Google scale that we can put behind these things is fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rob. And,
great. Thanks for having me. Enjoy the rest of the day.
You too.
Take care.
Bye.